You were never meant to fit into a mold. You were never meant to walk the same road as everyone else, wear the same mask, play the same role. But somewhere along the way, you started to believe that's what you had to do. You started to think that if you could just meet the expectations set by the world, by your parents, your teachers, your peers, you would finally be enough. You'd finally be accepted, finally be loved. But here's the harsh truth. The world doesn't want you. The world doesn't need you to play the part it's scripted for you. The world only wants the version of you it can control, the version it's been teaching you to perform for your whole life. And that version of you isn't real. It's a ghost. It's a mask. It's a character in someone else's story. It's time to stop living up to the expectations of a world that has never truly seen you. It's time to stop being the shadow of someone else's dream. It's time to stop pretending you're something you're not just to fit in. You've spent your whole life trying to be the right kind of person. The person your parents wanted you to be. The person your friends expected you to be. The person society told you was acceptable. And every time you did, you felt a little less like yourself. But what if I told you that the only thing standing between you and the life you were meant to live is the person you've been pretending to be? What if the only thing stopping you from stepping into your full power is your fear of disappointing everyone around you? Because here's the truth. The moment you start living for yourself, the moment you stop trying to live up to the world's expectations, is the moment you will begin to feel truly alive. The world wants you to fit into a box. It wants you to be this or that, to follow the rules, to be acceptable, to be normal. But normal is a prison. Normal is a cage built with walls of fear, shame, and guilt. And when you settle for normal, you give up on the extraordinary potential that burns within you. The extraordinary you that only exists when you give yourself permission to be. Because here's what most people never realize. Living up to expectations isn't just exhausting. It's soul-sucking. It's a constant act of self-betrayal. Every time you choose to be what the world expects, you abandon a piece of yourself. Every time you ignore your own desires, your own voice, your own truth, you trade away your power for acceptance. You choose the comfort of the crowd over the raw truth of your soul. But what if I told you that you don't need the crowd? What if you could let go of the constant pressure to perform, to conform, to prove your worth? What if you could stand in your power, not because someone told you you're worthy, but because you know you are? What if you stopped living up to the expectations of others and started living up to yourself? It's time to stop chasing someone else's dream. It's time to stop pretending to be something you're not, just to please others. It's time to stop seeking validation from the outside world and validate yourself. The moment you stop performing, the moment you stop pretending, is the moment you start living. This isn't just a mindset shift, it's a radical transformation. It's the moment you break free from the chains that have kept you small. It's the moment you stop looking to others for permission to be who you are. It's the moment you realize that you don't need to be accepted by anyone because you've already accepted yourself. And once you accept yourself, once you stop running from your truth, everything changes. Your vision becomes clear. Your purpose becomes undeniable. And the world no longer controls you. You control the narrative of your own life. It starts with one simple question. What if you stop measuring your worth by someone else's standards? What if you measured it by your own? Because you are not here to live for someone else's dream. You are here to create your own, to design a life that is aligned with your soul, your purpose, and your unique gifts. No more comparing yourself to others. No more shrinking to fit in. No more sacrificing your authenticity for the approval of people who don't see your potential. What would it look like to stop living in fear of judgment? What would it look like to stop making decisions based on how others will perceive you? It would look like freedom. It would look like liberation. It would look like the truth of who you really are, unfiltered, unapologetic, unafraid. It would look like the kind of life you were meant to live. But here's the catch. You have to be willing to step into the unknown. You have to be willing to let go of the comfort of other people's expectations. You have to be willing to face the fear that comes with being yourself in a world that wants you to conform. And it's scary. It's terrifying. Because the moment you stop performing, you stop being the person everyone thinks you are. You stop being the person you've spent your life trying to please. But here's what you'll find when you face that fear. You will become unstoppable. Because when you stop living up to expectations and start living up to yourself, you stop holding yourself back. You stop playing small. You stop asking for permission. You stop begging for love, for approval, for validation. And in that freedom, you step into your true power. You stop waiting for someone else to choose you. You start choosing yourself. You start saying yes to your own truth, your own desires, your own vision, and that's when the magic happens. You stop being afraid of rejection because you realize you're already complete. You stop seeking approval because you realize that your own approval is all you need. You stop trying to be something you're not, and you become everything you were always meant to be. And when you fully step into your truth, the world has no choice but to make room for you. People will be drawn to you, not because of the mask you wear, but because of the real you. The person who no longer hides, the person who stands in their power, the person who is no longer afraid to be seen for who they truly are. That's the life you were meant for. Not a life built on the approval of others. Not a life defined by expectation, but a life rooted in your own truth, your own authenticity, your own purpose. So stop living up to expectations. Start living up to yourself, because that is where true freedom begins. And in that freedom, you'll find a life that is greater than you ever imagined. A life that is not shaped by the world's demands, but by the power of your own soul. And once you start living for yourself, you realize that the only person you ever needed to prove anything to was the one staring back at you in the mirror. That's when everything changes. Because in that moment when you stop trying to fit into a mold you were never meant to occupy, you reclaim your power. You reclaim your sovereignty. You reclaim your voice, your desires, your dreams, and your truth. And no one, no situation, no opinion can ever take that from you again. You realize then that you were never meant to live in the shadows of others' expectations. You were born to cast your own light, to live on your own terms, to create a life that feels right to you, not to them. And when you choose this path of authenticity, of unapologetic self-expression, you stop asking for permission to exist. You stop waiting for validation. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Instead, you rise. You rise not because you've conquered the world, but because you finally conquered the fear that kept you from stepping into your power. You rise because you've stopped living in reaction to what others think of you and started living in response to the deepest truth inside of you. This truth, your truth, the foundation of everything, it's the root from which your confidence, your clarity, your vision, and your purpose grow. It's a compass that guides you when the world tries to pull you off course. It's the anchor that holds you steady when the winds of doubt and insecurity blow. And once you claim it, once you own it, there is no turning back. You will never again bow to the pressures of fitting in. You will never again mold yourself into something you're not for the approval of others. Because you are enough. You always were. The world may still try to push you into its narrow boxes, but you will stand tall, unshaken, unbothered by its judgments. You will look at the world and say, I am not here to be what you want me to be. I am here to be what I was always meant to be. And that is more than enough. And when you stop living up to expectations and start living up to yourself, you realize something profound. The more you stand in your truth, the more the world makes space for you. Not because you demand it, but because you are no longer hiding. Your truth becomes magnetic. Your presence becomes undeniable. And people will start to see you not for the roles you've played, but for the person you truly are. They will see your fire, your purpose, your depth, and in that moment, the world will no longer try to shape you. It will start to bend around your light. But here's the thing. It's not about being accepted by the world anymore. It's about accepting yourself fully, unapologetically, and completely. Once you do that, you realize you are the creator of your own reality. You are the architect of your own life, and that is the power you've always had inside you. It's not in the approval of others. It's not in meeting their expectations. It's not in the titles, the accolades, the things you accumulate. It's in the freedom to walk through this world as your truest self. It's in the courage to let go of who you thought you had to be and become who you were always meant to be. So stop living up to expectations. Start living up to yourself, because that is where your real power lies. And in that power, you will find a life more fulfilling than you ever imagined. And when you stand in your truth, when you stop performing and start becoming, everything will change. Everything will change. Because when you begin to live for yourself, you stop measuring your worth by someone else's standards. You stop chasing approval like it's the air you breathe, and instead, you start breathing for yourself. This shift, this subtle but seismic transformation creates a ripple effect. It ripples through your life, through your relationships, through your career, through your choices. Every decision becomes an expression of who you are not, who you're supposed to be, not who others want you to be, but who you were always meant to be. And when you start to live up to yourself, you stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop explaining your no's because you know your yeses are sacred. You stop justifying your space in this world because you know that your space was always yours to occupy. This isn't about arrogance. It's about sovereignty. It's about claiming your own sovereignty in a world that has told you to shrink, to apologize, to shrink your power, to make others comfortable. It's time to break those chains. It's time to shatter the expectations placed upon you and walk in the truth of who you are. You are not a puppet to the world's demands. You are the author of your own story. This is where everything you've ever wanted starts to align. Not because you're chasing it anymore, not because you're begging for it, but because you are finally living from the core of your truth. And when you live like that, everything else follows. You stop running in circles trying to please everyone. You stop pouring from an empty cup trying to make others love you. And instead you pour into yourself your energy, your heart, your dreams. And in that energy, others will recognize you. They will be drawn to your authenticity, your clarity, your light. But it won't be because you need their validation. It will be because you no longer seek anything outside of yourself. You simply are. And in that being, you attract everything that aligns with your truth. So stop living up to expectations and start living up to yourself. You were never meant to perform. You were meant to live fully, freely, authentically. And when you live like this, you become unstoppable. You become the force that carves a path where none exists, the light that guides the way for others who are still hiding in the shadows of other people's dreams. You become the living proof that you do not need to shrink. You do not need to settle, and you do not need to beg for love. You simply need to live as the truest version of yourself, because that is the power within you. That is the magic you've been waiting to unlock. And once you do, nothing and no one will ever stop you from living the life that was always meant to be yours. You are enough. You always were. Now, go live like you know it. Because when you step into that truth, when you finally live from a place of deep authenticity, the world begins to change around you. Not because you force it to, but because your energy shifts, your choices shift, and most importantly, your reality shifts. You no longer react to life, you create it. You stop waiting for permission from anyone or anything outside of you. The approval you once craved, the validation you once thought would fill the empty spaces inside of you fades. It dissolves because you've discovered that you are the source of your own fulfillment. You realize that your worth was never contingent on someone else's view of you. Your worth was always, always inherent. It was there, in your bones, in your spirit, in every cell of your being, waiting for you to claim it. And when you claim it, when you stop performing and start being, something powerful happens. You attract a new kind of life, a life that honors your boundaries, respects your choices, and aligns with the highest vision of who you are. Your relationships evolve. The people who are meant for you will begin to show up not because you've molded yourself to fit their needs, but because they recognize the real you. And those who don't resonate with your truth will fall away. Not in anger or resentment, but in a quiet, peaceful separation, because you no longer need them to validate your existence. You will stop compromising your dreams for the comfort of others and start building a life that excites you, fuels you, challenges you, and empowers you. Because you have remembered that you were never meant to live small. You were never meant to fit into someone else's version of what you should be. You were meant to stand tall in the fullness of who you are, with your shoulders back, your head held high, and your heart open. To walk into the world not as a shadow of who you thought you had to be, but as the powerful, radiant force you were always destined to become. And when you do, you'll see that everything changes. Opportunities begin to unfold in ways you never imagined. Your passion becomes a beacon that others are drawn to. Your confidence, born from your self-acceptance, attracts people who can meet you at your level of truth. Your life becomes a reflection of the power you've reclaimed, the power to choose yourself every single day. You stop seeking approval because you realize that the only approval you need is your own. You stop hiding parts of yourself because you realize there is nothing to hide. You stop pretending because you know the real you is more than enough. And in this space of absolute freedom and authenticity, you'll understand something profound. This is a life you were always meant to live, not a life dictated by others' expectations, not a life shaped by fears, insecurities, and doubts, but a life shaped by the force of your own will, the power of your own truth, the greatness of your own vision. So stand tall, stand proud, and never apologize for being everything you were always meant to be, because the world needs you just as you are. Not in the shape it wants to mold you into, but in the shape you were born to inhabit. And when you do, when you fully embrace who you are and stop living up to anyone else's expectations, you'll see that the life you were waiting for was never outside of you. It was always within you. And the moment you stopped performing and started being was the moment everything changed. Because when you live up to yourself, you create a life that no one can ever take from you. A life that is yours. A life that is real. A life that is unstoppable. And now you are finally free. Everything will change when you dare to live true to yourself. When you stop living for the expectations of others, when you stop being the shadow of someone you're not, you'll feel your true power rise. No more fear, no more proving yourself, No more hiding now. You stand tall, strong, and free. You no longer need approval from the world outside. You only need approval from yourself. Because when you accept yourself, when you live from your own truth, you will no longer seek validation anywhere else. You realize that you are all you need to live a full life now, because you have everything, but because you found your worth within yourself. When you stop living for expectations, you not only discover freedom, you also discover the power. You've always had the power to choose your own way, to live with passion and true desire. When you live in this way, life is no longer about criticism or disappointment, but about boundless creation. You will no longer shrink in fear, because you'll know that everything you need to live a fulfilled, unstoppable life is already inside of you. And now you are finally free. You have become the person you were always meant to be, not someone else, but you. The moment you stopped performing and started being is the moment everything changed. Live unapologetically. Live with courage. Because when you live for yourself, you create a life that no one can ever take away. A life that is yours. A life that is real. A life that is unstoppable. And when you finally step into that truth, when you stop living up to someone else's expectations, you will realize that the life you were waiting for was never outside of you. It was always within you. And the moment you started living for yourself was the moment everything began to fall into place. Because when you live up to yourself, you create a life that is unshakable, a life that is free, a life that is yours.